Listening, fill in the blanks.
Let's start.
John Vesti says that the time for returning vanished native animals to Britain has arrived. Around 598 AD, there is a poem that describes the hunting of a mystery animal called Lewin. What is it? Nothing got fitted until 2006. An animal bone was found in the Kinsey Cave in northern England, dating from around the same period. Until this discovery, the lynx, which is a large spotted cat with tassel-led ears, was assumed to have died in Britain at least 6,000 years ago. It happens before the inhabitants of these islands do farming.
We can look at the wider implications for transport and society apart from these direct benefits, and how manufacturing processes might need to change as a result. At present, the average car spends its life parked for more than 90% of its life. Initiatives for car sharing become more possible through automation, especially in cities with more demand for vehicles. Mobility demand can be met by far fewer vehicles if a significant proportion of the population chooses to use shared automated vehicles.
Before the invention of artificial light, the moon had greater social impact, and, for those living near the equator, in particular, its waxing and waning were more conspicuous than the passing of the seasons. Hence, the calendars that were developed at the lower latitudes were influenced more by the lunar cycle than by the solar year. In more northern climes, however, where seasonal agriculture was practiced, the solar year became more crucial. As the Roman Empire expanded northward, it organized its activity chart for the most part around the solar year. Centuries before the Roman Empire, the Egyptians had formulated a municipal calendar, having 12 months of 30 days, with 5 days added to approximate the solar year. Each period of 10 days was marked by the appearance of special groups of stars called decans. At the rise of the star Sirius just before sunrise, which occurred around the all-important annual flooding of the Nile, 12 decans could be seen spanning the heavens. The cosmic significance the Egyptians placed in the 12 decans led them to develop a system in which each interval of darkness, and later, each interval of daylight, was divided into a dozen equal parts. There will be no threat to human beings by the lynx. There is no instance of a lynx preying on people. It is a specialist predator of roe deer that has exploded in Britain in recent decades, which holds back the intensive browsing and planning to re-establish forests. It will also winkle out sika deer, an exotic species that is impossible for human beings to control as it hides in impenetrable plantations of young trees. Reintroducing this predator comes with the aim of bringing back the forests to the parts of our bare and barren uplands. We should overcome many obstacles before delivering automated vehicles to our roads. These include the technical difficulties in making sure that the vehicle are reliable in traffic, different climate, and multiple road situations it might experience. The regulatory challenges in understanding how liability and enforcement might need to change when drivers are not needed, and the societal changes that is to be brought in communities to accept and trust automated vehicles as being a valuable part of the mobility landscape.
In order to track temporal hours during the day, inventors created sundials, which indicate time by the length or direction of the sun's shadow. The sundial's counterpart, the water clock, was designed to measure temporal hours at night. One of the first water clocks was a basin with a small hole near the bottom through which the water dripped out. The falling water level denoted the passing hour as it dipped below hour lines inscribed on the inner surface. Although these devices performed satisfactorily around the Mediterranean, they could not always be depended on in the cloudy and often freezing weather of northern Europe. Statistics give little clue as to which system is best. The performance of the most able is heavily affected by factors other than state provision. Most state education in Britain is nominally non-selective, but middle-class parents try to live near the best schools. Ambitious Japanese parents have made private, out-of-school tuition a thriving business. And Scandinavia's egalitarianism might work less well in places with more diverse populations and less competent teachers. For what it's worth, the data suggest that some countries, like Japan and Finland, see table, can eschew selection and still thrive. But that does not mean that any country can ditch selection and do as well.
The advent of the mechanical clock meant that although it could be adjusted to maintain temporal hours, it was naturally suited to keeping equal ones. With these, however, rose the question of when to begin counting, and so, in the early 14th century, a number of systems evolved. The schemes that divided the day into 24 equal parts varied according to the start of the count. Italian hours began at sunset, Babylonian hours at sunrise, astronomical hours at midday, and great clock hours, used for some large public clocks in Germany, at midnight. Eventually, these were superseded by small clock, or French, hours, which split the day into 12-hour periods commencing at midnight.
Like, share, and subscribe this channel.